Hi, I'm Jeff Willinger, Jay Willie on Twitter, and I am absolutely thrilled to be on the floor of ESPC19, the European SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure conference. This is our afternoon session. As you could see, it's pretty bustling here, and I am lucky enough to be with a dear, old, not necessarily in age, just in longevity of friendship with me, Luis Suarez, all the way from the Canary Islands.
Correct, that's
Luis,
right.
thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me today. It's a pleasure being here.
It is great to see you. You know, this whole social media thing. So Luis and I go back. How long did we decide, Luis?
I was thinking earlier on, that's 13, 14 years ago.
13, 14
if
years
not
ago, when this whole Enterprise 2.0 thing was taking off, before these social intranets were a thing, right? Luis was actually an influencer, to me anyway, before the term influencer is now just thrown around all over the place. So to run into each other, obviously in person, is a thrill. But we connected first, actually, on Instagram.
Correct.
Well, first we connected on LinkedIn, and then we sort of liked each other.
Right.
And then we connected on Instagram. So I knew that you're going to be here. So your booth is right outside here in this fabulous space. So, you know, Luis, you were, in my opinion, one of the pioneers with this Enterprise 2.0.
Wow. Thank you.
And we've been on a journey, different journeys, you and I, but here we are together in Europe.
Right.
Talk to me about your journey from where you were to where you are now.
Okay. So, you know, many years ago, more than I can dare to count and everything else. So let's say over 2 decades ago, I started getting involved with collaboration and knowledge management and social networks for business and everything else. And at the time, it was all about doing a lot of evangelism, like you were doing, a lot of advocacy and getting people to understand how all of these social tools were coming on board and how they were going to transform the way we work and make us a lot more open and collaborative and transparent and everything else. And then, you know, a number of years go by, and then, you know, you get like new tools. They're trying to do pretty much the same things and everything else, and then you eventually realize that technology has gotten better and things continue to change at a very slow pace, and sometimes kind of like makes you wonder like how we really progress that much, or are we still at the infancy of the whole evolution, right? And lately, you know, the last 3-4 years I've been getting a lot more involved into doing data analytics, so helping organizations understand the impact of those change initiatives and how they're using all of these social tools, and you can see the evolution of how we're moving slowly but steadily into using all these digital tools to become more open and collaborative. So to me, someone would say, so have things changed a lot in the last, say, 15, 18 years? I would say that technology has changed dramatically.
For the better, I mean?
For the better, yeah. I mean, the tools have gotten a lot easier. Maybe there's a bit of a proliferation of too many tools at the moment, right? But I think that the technology has gotten better. We have been getting better in adopting and embracing those new tools. You know, there were a lot more reluctance back then than there is now. Now it's more about, you know, what do I want to do with them? Whereas before it was more like, why do I need to do something with this, right? So I think that there's very little questioning happening now than what was happening 10, 14, 15 years ago. I mean, how do you see it? Do you see that part of the evolution?
I think that it's got to be easy to use. It's got to be something where I don't think about it. Sort of like, you know, getting up in the morning and getting coffee. That's not a pain for me. It's easy. Checking my email. It's easy. We've been talking a lot about email on this broadcast. But we're not going to talk about email.
That's all right.
But, you know, to me, the best kind of technology, Luis, is when you don't really think about it. When it's just there. I mean, I remember when Facebook came out, I was obsessed with Facebook, right? All of us were obsessed with Facebook at one point in our lives. And it didn't consume me, but you had to limit it even before this whole, hey, we need to limit our social media time. I get it. You know, it's just a time suck. You know, 2 hours of your life you'll never get back. And you say to yourself, gosh, what did I get out of it except nothing? Just a lot of useless entertainment.
Correct, yeah.
So,
do you think that we have moved on a little bit from that?
I think that...
And become a bit more purposeful in the way we use them?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that I personally have cut back on my Facebook time. I've replaced it with Instagram time. It's all going to the Mark Zuckerberg at the end of the day.
Right.
But, you know, when it comes to actual work, I try not to mess around with that stuff during the day.
Right.
I'm more on LinkedIn all day. I'm on Twitter all day.
Right.
I'm on email all day. Really depends upon, you know, what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that is very important. You know, it's, at the end of the day, it's context what defines what we do with these tools, right? So we get to define the activities that I want to do with one and the other. I mean, I know a lot of people use Twitter for learning, right, about new conversations, topics that are happening. LinkedIn is a bit more professional-like. So you basically kind of like segment a little bit of where you want to be and where you want to spend the time, right? And that's where I see a little bit of the evolution because, you know, 10, 15 years, there was the assumption that you needed to be everywhere. You know, you need to have a profile everywhere, you need to be everywhere and everything else. And if you look now, there's a situation where people are starting questioning, do I really need to be everywhere? Or do I really need to be where my community is, where my, you know, potential audience is, and how do I best engage with them, right?
You know, if there's not a reason to be there,
right,
why go there? I actually run marathons, Luis. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
And you probably look at me and you say, you know, Jeff, you don't look like a typical marathon runner. I get that a lot. But I will tell you something about my running marathons. The only reason why I run is because I like to eat so much. You've already witnessed that a little bit with me. I like to eat, so I see value.
Right.
If we don't see value in doing what we're doing, we're never going to do it. Just like your job. If we don't bring our company, our organization value, and then our clients, we're going to be expendable. So I always say, bring value, bring value, bring value. Yeah. If I'm not getting value out of Facebook or Twitter or whatever,
why would you be there?
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
In my role, this idea, we're talking a lot about personal branding. Mm-hmm. My personal brand is like, you know, the blue glass is the bigger than life personality.
Right.
I love what I do, right? It's like here.
Right.
I'm not the smartest, right? But it's really, you know, you lead from the heart.
Right.
When I run a marathon, it's 1/3 here, 1/3 here, and 1/3 here, right? Your head. You got to mentally get ready for it. You got to have the heart to do it. And then, you know, the rest is physical. People think, oh, gosh, Jeff, you don't look like a marathon runner, and I don't.
Yeah, but it's a very good point that you bring in the running the marathons, right? Because if you look into all of this transformation with all of these digital tools, a lot of people think that it's running sprints, when it's actually the marathon that you're after. I mean, we're talking about seeing all of these various different technologies and everything else, and I keep talking to a lot of people who are coming new into the space, and they say, you know, how long have you been working in this space? And I go like, well, over 20 years, right? And I still feel like I'm on the tip of the iceberg. So when you do with a marathon is that there's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of patience and perseverance and resilience, and you eventually build that new skill set that helps you understand that you need to play for the long-term transformation versus the quick and dirty, let me get through the next sprint and move on, right?
You are spot on, Luis. In fact, many times, a lot of these vendors and partners that are here, a lot of CEOs and CIOs look for the shiny new thing to be the silver bullet.
Right.
But the thing is, there is no silver bullet.
Right.
And this idea of digital transformation that everyone is talking about it, but no one knows what to do for it. Everyone's sort of searching for that sort of holy grail.
Yeah, I agree.
What does it look like? And every organization, it's different. But the one commonality with everything is it's got to be from the top down. It's got to be the C-levels that actually are the ones that are leading the digital transformation. You're not going to buy it at one of these vendors, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, but the thing is that we probably shouldn't also wait too much for them, right? Because I know I have worked in the past with a lot of the C-suite, and sometimes they're a bit more reluctant than the rest in coming on board. And a lot of people keep waiting for them to finally make the jump. And sometimes, you know, you can wait up to so long before you can start doing little things yourself, right? So to me, the magic is when you have got top down with bottom up and then meet somewhere in the middle, right? So you can continue doing things. And at the same time, once you know that the top decides to come down, that's when you get the final push and then when you make it happen, right? So sometimes I tell organizations, you know, if your top leadership is not really into it, don't worry, they'll come around. When they feel the pressure, when they feel that they are the ones being left out, when they feel like everyone is having conversations without them, that's when you realize that it's their turn to come on board.
Or they go to one of those CEO conferences and everyone is sort of talking about it, and then the CEO, the next day they get back and they're like, we need digital transformation. I remember I was at a lunch and learn in Michigan, Central Michigan, and it was one of those places where we're bringing in pizza and there was no delivery because we were really in the rural section. And I remember it was lunchtime and all the employees were filing out and they were all on their phones. And we're bringing in pizza, right?
Right.
So we get inside and we find out that this organization, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, all that sort of thing.
Right.
They block all the social media inside the four walls and they block cell phone usage. So at lunchtime, everyone goes out at lunch and they go on their cell phones and do whatever they do on their cell phones. Guess what, Luis? These people, and then I was at the lunch and learn, and the CEO, a young guy, younger than me, stamping on the table, we want social media. And I'm like, dude, you are not in the right meeting. I will tell you that. At the same time, his admin walked in with a printed email. He handwrites the response and gives it back to her.
Oh, my God.
They do not have a culture of collaboration.
No.
They are, they're playing the long game.
And actually, even simple, many years ago, it said that in order for a for a company to potentially be 2.0, right, 2.0, you cannot be 0.5 behind the firewall. Either you are all on it or you're not, right?
Yes, you got to do the whole thing in.
And if you want to go where your customers are and engage with them and converse with them and co-create things together and everything else, you need to habilitate that inside. Because if you don't allow your employees to become comfortable to have these kind of conversations in the open where you go back and forth, eventually when people go and talk to their customers, they would not know how to do it. And they will embarrass themselves. And you will go to events and then you will see all of these crowds and getting together and they go like, yeah, we don't do that inside the firewall. We're not allowed to. We're blocked. We have not had that kind of permission.
That's the first thing that has to happen.
Yeah.
When people talk about digital transformation, it starts with the employees.
It does. It does.
It's not like just putting up signs all over the...
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you look into... The way I tell people is that you want to have happy customers. Happy employees produce happy customers.
Yes.
If you've got a pissed off employee, you're going to have a pissed off customer because at the end of the day, it's going to reflect on that, right? So the thing is, how do you influence the employee experience to enable them to do the best they can with all of these digital tools and whatever process and governance you have in place, so that then they're capable of going outside and be themselves. Why pretend to be who they're not? Right?
That is, you're spot on that explanation. I think about that when I think about the employees here at the European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure conference staff, as they welcome me as a speaker with open arms. They all seemed to memorize what my face looked like, and they all were coming up to me, greeting me, open arms, what can I do for you, that type of thing. And here I am, from LA, and they could not have been nicer. And it shows. Shane, Tom, the whole staff here have been terrific.
Right, and it shows they're caring for the customer, right, where eventually they provide an exceeding service, which is what we all want to. We all want to have happy customers.
We do.
And that's at the end of the day what we need to look for, right? Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah. Luis, I know we talked a lot about different things today. Is there anything that maybe we did not discuss that you're just dying to discuss?
Such as?
I don't know. This has been super fun, though. First of all, catching up with you is always a pleasure.
The pleasure's mine.
And the beauty now with this whole social media and email thing, we could stay closer in touch. We talked about maybe doing a house swap, Canary Islands for Venice Beach.
Hey, you're on for that.
You heard it right here, live streaming. Jay Willie in the Canary Islands, in Luis's house. He just has to get permission from a few people first.
Oh, yeah, local management, as they call it.
Yes, local management. Luis, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Again, an amazing conference. Great seeing you. And thanks to all our listeners and viewers out there. Luis Suarez, very easy to find on LinkedIn. There aren't that many of them. And this is Jeff Willinger, Jay Willie, from the floor of ESPC19, signing off.
See you, everyone.